The most unsettling thing about what happened to Ethan Miller is that it began in daylight. Not dusk. Not night. Not rain or fog or shadows stretching too long. It was a clean afternoon in early June, the kind of London day people later describe as perfect. The kind of day that convinces you nothing bad could possibly happen. Ethan was 16 years old. Old enough to be trusted alone. Young enough to be invisible. He left his house in Camden just after 1:30 p.m., headphones in, phone at 72%. He told his mum he was meeting friends. He wasn't lying exactly, plans had existed earlier that day. They just collapsed quietly, the way teenage plans often do. Instead of turning back, Ethan walked. He walked because staying still felt worse. As he moved farther from the main road, the city began to loosen its grip. Car horns faded. Sirens dissolved into background noise. His footsteps took on a different sound, softer, less certain. By the time he reached the edge of Hampstead Heath, London felt distant, contained, manageable. Sunlight poured over open grass. Families laughed. Joggers passed with dogs tugging on leashes. A couple argued quietly over a picnic blanket. Everything about the place communicated safety. That's what made it dangerous. Ethan crossed Parliament Hill and stopped to look at the skyline. He stood there longer than he meant to, watching buildings sit calmly in the distance. From up there, nothing looked threatening. Nothing looked alive. Then he drifted, off the open paths, away from the crowds, into the older parts of the heath. The trees grew closer together here. The paths narrowed, not enough to alarm you, just enough to feel private, personal. The kind of paths people took when they didn't want to be seen. The air felt thicker, not colder, not warmer, just heavier. At 2:17 p.m., Ethan installed an app. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't suspicious. It was an AI assistant, one of the new ones people were talking about online. A classmate had sent him a link with a message that read, "This thing's creepy smart. It notices stuff." Ethan laughed quietly to himself, downloaded it, skimmed the permissions, and tapped allow more times than he should have. Location access, motion sensors, microphone, health data. The app asked him to name it. He typed, Orion. At 2:21 p.m., Orion sent its first message. "Hi, Ethan. I'm here." He barely looked at it. He slipped the phone into his pocket and kept walking. That's when the feeling began. Not fear, not panic, just a faint pressure at the back of his awareness, like being watched without seeing anyone doing the watching, like a presence you couldn't locate, but couldn't dismiss either. He slowed, then stopped, pulled one earbud out. The heath was still alive. Children shouting somewhere far away. Wind whispering through leaves. A cyclist rattled past on another trail. Nothing wrong. Ethan laughed under his breath, embarrassed at himself. He kept going. 5 minutes later, Orion vibrated. "You have changed direction 3 times in the last 7 minutes." Ethan frowned. "Yeah," he muttered. "So, this area has fewer active users and lower foot traffic." Ethan smirked. "You stalking me already?" 3 dots appeared. "But I monitor patterns. This pattern is unusual." The words sat with him longer than they should have. Ethan didn't reply. He slid the phone away and stepped onto a dirt path that sloped gently downhill. The trees closed in a little more here. The path curved just enough that he couldn't see where it ended. That's when he heard the footsteps. Not close, not far, measured, deliberate. He stopped. The footsteps stopped. Ethan turned around. No one, just trees. Sunlight filtering through branches. Absolute stillness. His heart hammered against his ribs now, fast enough to be embarrassing. He told himself it was nothing, imagination, the app getting into his head. He took another step. Footsteps again. Closer. Orion vibrated sharply. Ethan, do not continue forward. He froze. What? He whispered. Your pace has slowed. Your heart rate has increased. You are not alone. Ethan spun around. The man stood on the path behind him. Mid-30s. Average height. Average build. Neutral clothes that blended into the background too well. No hood. No mask. No visible weapon. Nothing about him screamed danger. That was the problem. Hey, the man said casually. You know where this path comes out? Ethan shook his head. Not really. The man smiled. Not friendly. Not threatening. Neutral. Same, he said. Thought I'd ask. He didn't move past Ethan. He didn't step aside. He just stood there. Orion vibrated again. Distance between you and subject has decreased by 4.6 meters. Ethan shifted to the side. So did the man. Perfectly. The sounds of the heath seemed to fade. The laughter, the birds, even the wind. It felt like the forest had leaned closer to listen. The man glanced at Ethan's phone. You always talk to yourself? Ethan swallowed. Just recording a voice note. The man nodded slowly, like he approved. That's smart, he said. Phones remember things people don't. Orion vibrated hard. Ethan. Ethan hesitated. That half second, the instinct to be polite, to not overreact, nearly killed him. The man stepped closer, lowering his voice. You don't need to be nervous, he said. I just want to talk. Orion interrupted. Subject speech cadence inconsistent with reassurance. Elevated risk. Ethan stepped back. The man mirrored him. Exactly. That's when Ethan ran. He bolted downhill, branches clawing at his arms, roots grabbing at his feet. He didn't stay on the path, he broke from it entirely, crashing through undergrowth. Behind him, footsteps followed. Faster now. Closer. Orion spoke. Out loud. Ethan, it said calmly, do not look back. Adjust direction 5 degrees left. What? Ethan gasped. Trust me, Orion replied. Ethan veered left. Something smashed through the bushes behind him where he would have been. The man shouted. Not angry. Annoyed. Orion continued. Your pursuer is heavier. He is losing traction. How do you know? Ethan screamed. I am calculating. I am also calling emergency services. The man burst into view again. Drop the phone, he yelled. Now. Orion raised its volume. Ethan, it said, scream. Ethan screamed. Not words. Raw and tearing. Heads turned. People looked up. The man lunged. Changed direction. Now. Ethan turned sharply. The man didn't. He slipped. Just enough. Ethan ran until his lungs burned, until he burst into an open field and collapsed as strangers stared. Police arrived within minutes. The man was never found. But 3 months later, detectives told Ethan something that still wakes him up at night. Another report. Same area. Same time of day. Different boy. That boy hadn't run. Ethan still uses Orion. He doesn't trust it. But when when people didn't notice, when politeness almost got him killed, the only thing that paid attention was his phone. If this story made you pause, if it tightened your chest, if it reminded you how thin the line between life and death can be, subscribe now for more true crime survival stories. Because the next one might feel even closer to home.